Given how much basketball has been played since, I think we've forgotten how the Utah Jazz exited the NBA playoffs, losing 2 out of 3 to the Mavs without Luka Doncic, Bogdanovic missing a 3 at the buzzer in Game 6 at home to send them home, and since then, Quinn Snyder has left the Jazz their coach, which I think is a blow, and I think it feels like the Jazz are headed towards a rebuild. Though they still have Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, it feels like those are 2 star players who could definitely be traded this offseason. So in this video, I'm going to be going over some Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert potential trades and talking about them from both sides. And yeah, so starting with Donovan Mitchell, I sort of see 2 teams that are sort of in the lead, or that I'd consider the best fits and most realistic trades for him. And those 2 teams are the New York Knicks and the Miami Heat. So to talk about the Heat first, it would have to be a deal around Tyler Hero, which after his playoff run looks a bit less appealing to the Jazz. And then around Hero, it would be, maybe Robinson for salary purposes, and then whatever picks the Miami Heat have. It feels like the Heat are always trading picks, and then they always just get new ones and find a way. So from the Jazz perspective, I don't think that's a great return for Mitchell, but I don't think there are too many great returns for Mitchell out there right now, unless there's some team I'm not thinking about, and like the Thunder are willing to give up the house for him. But yeah, for the Heat side of things, I think getting Mitchell, gives you the star alongside Butler offensively. I think they become even more of a threat. Took the Celtics to Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals this year. I think they would have some things with the roster where they'd have to get some more 3-point shooting if they were to lose Hero and Robinson. And then it would also be tough salary cap-wise with Jimmy, Bam, and Lowry all also making a large amounts of money. But if that trade is on the table, I think the Heat definitely do it just because of how big a talent upgrade it is. And for the Jazz, they'd have to really like Tyler Hero. I'm not exactly sure how many picks the Heat could put into it, but it doesn't seem like a great return, but it seems like maybe an okay return, though I think Jazz fans maybe would want more. And then from the Knicks side of things, obviously Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks has been a rumor for quite a while, I feel like. And I think it would have to be RJ Barrett, who is definitely a player with lots of potential. Like, if you think who would you rather have, Hero or Barrett, I think that's definitely an interesting debate. Barrett is someone, who can get to the rim, who's certainly a better defender, though he's not a great finisher around the rim, and I think he's definitely a worse shooter. And the Knicks definitely have picks, and then they have other young players too, guys like Quickly, Toppin. So it'd be interesting to see, if a deal were to happen, which one of the young players, apart from Barrett, the Jazz would like. And then from the Knicks side of things, they're obviously not as good a team as the Heat, but, I feel like 3-4 years now, we've been saying, when are the Knicks going to get the star? And, Donovan Mitchell, he's young, he's an exciting player to watch, and it feels like, if the Knicks can get him, it seems like that's what the Knicks do. They try and get stars. So if that were to happen, I think the Knicks definitely have more picks and more young players that they can offer, but I think they would be a worse team than the Heat would be, and they definitely have some fit issues just with Julius Randle being there and Tibbs being the coach. Donovan Mitchell is not a great defender, doesn't put a ton of effort into defense, so that would definitely have to change. And I think that it would be a interesting fit because Mitchell will be the main star in New York, and it'd just be interesting to see how good that team is. So yeah, those are the 2 teams I see for Donovan Mitchell, unless there's sort of a third team that comes out of the blue. And then for Rudy Gobert, I think there's definitely a chance that the Jazz trade Gobert and keep Mitchell. And I think even though Gobert, he has that massive contract, I think theoretically there's more teams that could be interested in him. Because I don't think there's any scenario where they trade Mitchell and keep Gobert. I think they're going to trade Gobert, or they're going to trade both, or, they're not going to find a great trade and just keep both. But for the teams for Gobert, I think the Bulls are definitely one to mention. I've seen rumored. I think the trade would be Vucevic and Patrick Williams. I don't know how much interest the Jazz have in Vucevic unless they're trying to retool and still be a competitive team. But Patrick Williams, definitely an exciting young player. With the flashes he's shown on both ends. And for the Bulls, I think this would be a good trade because you could finally resolve their defense problem, especially in the regular season. And then you think a lineup of Lonzo, Caruso, LaVine, if they can keep him this offseason, DeRozan and Gobert, that's a really exciting team. Maybe a little bit lacking for our three-point shooting, depending on how consistent Lonzo and Caruso are. But defensively, you have the two guards and then Gobert. Playmaking-wise, you have lots of playmaking with Lonzo, DeRozan, and LaVine and Caruso. So I think if the Bulls can trade for Gobert, they're definitely a team that should be interested in him because of how much he could affect their defense, especially in the regular season. And then there's the Atlanta Hawks. This is the trade I'd be most fascinated by because you're putting the worst regular season defender in the league, Trae Young, with probably the best regular season defender in the league, and Rudy Gobert. And then on offense, they could run pick and roll, and they're pretty much like polar opposite players, Trae Young and Rudy Gobert. So I'd be really interested to see them play together to see if Gobert can fix the Hawks' terrible defense with his rim protection. The trade, I'm not sure. I think Capella would definitely be in there. Hunter is a player I've seen that the Jazz might be interested in. I think it would be Capella and maybe one of the other Hawks young players, as well as maybe some picks. I don't know if they'd include Collins or if the Jazz would really want Collins. So I don't know the exact trade, but I think Gobert in Atlanta with Trae Young would definitely be an interesting fit. Next, there's the Hornets. Like, the teams I think make the most sense for Gobert are teams with players who we can play with offensively, who can throw him lobs, who we can run pick and roll with, and then teams that really need help defensively because that's Gobert's main skill. If you have Gobert on your team, you're probably going to be a good regular season defense. That's how impactful his rim protection is in the regular season. So for the Hornets, I don't know the exact trade, but I think the Hornets definitely need to acquire a center this offseason, and Gobert would sort of be the big swing because he's a bit older, he's very expensive, very big and long contract, but he is very impactful. Next is the Mavs, which I've seen as a team rumored for Gobert. It makes sense in some respects. I think offensively it certainly does because of Gobert and Luka. I think the lobs there would be great. And then defensively, he would definitely help them out, but I feel at times in these playoffs, the Mavs were at their best when they could go small ball and 5 out on offense and be more switchy defensively. So we'll see. I think that was a big rumor before the playoffs, but I don't know what the Mavs playoff run this year, if it makes them a bit less likely to trade for Gobert. And then next, I just have two teams, the Suns and the Nets, which I think are worth mentioning. The Suns, it would obviously be something with Ayton, which I think is a decent return for the Jazz if they could get Ayton for Gobert. You get a lot younger. Ayton's not as good as the player of Gobert is right now, but definitely has the potential. And for the Suns, you're sort of looking to win now a bit more, though I don't know if it makes complete sense. And then the Nets, who the hell knows what the Nets are going to do this offseason? I think the theoretical trade is Ben Simmons, and that could sort of make sense for the Nets, but, I think that's sort of a long way away, and I think we should just monitor the Nets this offseason because, with Kyrie having a player option, and they have Ben Simmons and all these other players, so just something worth keeping an eye on. So, yeah, those are sort of the teams for Mitchell and Gobert. As for other Jazz players, Conley, Bogdanovic, Royce O'Neal, I could definitely see contending teams wanting to get them, especially because I think they're all on expiring deals. At least I think Conley and Bogdanovic are. And yeah, I think they could definitely help out contending teams, yeah. So anyways, those are sort of some Utah Jazz trades. It'll be interesting to see what the Jazz do this offseason because they look like they're headed towards a rebuild, though you never know. Anyways, thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe for more NBA content.